Well, good afternoon or morning, whatever it may be at your house. My name is Judy Drummond. I'm a member of the Lombardy Agricultural Society, and I'm going to show you how to make peach jam. Now I'm going to start using my peaches. You will notice I've got 2 peaches here in the bowl. I'm finding the peaches aren't just as soft like the old peaches used to be. This one I have gone ahead. Blanched means it has been dropped into boiling water for, I tried 1 minute, but it still wasn't good enough, and it took between 2 and 3 minutes. And you will see how easily the skin just peels off. Otherwise, you have to use a carrot peeler, and it just takes too long to do that. These peaches have a nice red color, which really will help in the color of the jam. So I'm using this little gadget that I use a lot for chopping. I also use the end that you'll see for my gravy if I happen to have lumps in it. I'm just going to put it in, not the pit, and just grind these up a bit because they are a little firm. So, lid was on. This is my handheld machine. I just turn it on. And it kind of chops them up a bit. And then I add them to my measuring cup. I start with, this is 8 peaches in all, and it's given me 4 cups. So 4 cups goes into my pot. And 1/4 cup of lemon juice. I'm going to mix that up. And then add this little bit of sugar. Just watch how much sugar. This is 7½ cups of sugar. So you know how sweet jam is. So I'm just going to stir this up, and then we're going to add it to our heat element behind me. And when you cook your peaches, you have to be careful at the beginning till that sugar is well worked in. And then it's going to come to what we call a full rolling boil. And that's why you have to use quite a depth of a pan, because this is going to be bubbling up probably close to the top. Before you get to this stage, you need to have your jars ready. Make sure that you have the correct lids and sizes. And you will notice I have 2 boxes. One Certo and Bernardine. They both do the same thing in thickening. If you are entering in the fair, like many of us do, if it's a Bernardine event, then you have to use that and prove that you have used it by entering part of the box. So today I'm just going to use Certo. And peaches are high in pectin, so I'm only going to use 1 Certo. And apples is another one that's high in pectin. So you don't need as much thickening agent for it to thicken up. You will notice that there are many, I think 3 different sizes of lids. This one says regular, this one says, this is a very wide mouth one. I didn't bring a big jar, but be careful with your lids. This was purchased at the dollar store. So in the Certo, each one comes with 2 pouches, and I'm going to use the one today. And I'll just get it, pinch it, and I'll just set it in there. You will notice in the Certo container, there is always a recipe for no cooked jams, and cooked jellies. You will notice that in this one, the only recipe they give for peaches is with a freezer method. And we like it cooked, so that's what we use. And my recipe is 4 cups of peaches, 1/4 cup of lemon juice, and 7½ cups of sugar. And then when I remove it from the stove, I will add 1 pouch. So the stove is pretty hot, so I'm sure it's not going to take too long. I find the peaches lately they don't have that fuzziness like you get the Georgia peaches, and these were very firm. They're almost like a nectarine. So if you were here at my workshop, you could ask me questions. And do you have any questions, Olene?
How long do you boil it for?
Well, once you bring it to a full boil, then you boil it 1 minute, and then remove it. And then as it cools for approximately 5 minutes, I'm going to skim it with a metal spoon, and it will just have a little bit of foam on it that you might not want it in your jar, especially if you're showing it at the fair. That would be one thing that the judge would look at. When you're serving it at home, it's not as particular. And often in my home, they eat the foam part out of the dish first because the other isn't quite set yet. So it will sit overnight, and probably you can flip it over and it will be all gelled and fine. So you can use any fruit to make your jams, or your jellies. I went along my roadway last year and picked grapes and picked apples along the fence, and brought them both home, and I made jelly. Jelly is a little harder. You have to boil your fruit, and then you have to strain it through a cheesecloth. So I find jams are a little easier, but you do like both. We're getting there. The odd time your jam might not set, and when you turn your jar up and down, you still see it liquid. Do not throw it out. Just bring it to a boil again, empty your jars out, a little more work, and then add another pouch of Certo to it. But in this little recipe on Certo, it also gives you different tips. One is always check the best date, because sometimes the thickening agent might be stale and it just won't work. Sugar, always use the exact amount. Don't use less sugar because it will interfere with the gelling. Use firm, ripe fruit or thawed, you can freeze apples and then take them out of the freezer and make your pies or make your apple jam or jelly. This says to crush your berries with a potato masher. There's no way with the firmness of these peaches I could have ever used a potato masher. That's why I use my little machine. So I am getting pretty close to a full boil. Another comment is cooked jams and jellies can be stored unopened on the shelf for up to a year. So I'm going to time this now. For 1 minute. It's almost at the top of my pot. And this is when it hurts if these bubbles hit your hand. And this is what you call a full rolling boil. And you see all that foam, that some of it will be left on it. And that's why we stir it when it's cooling. Well, that's 30 seconds. The reason I chose peach jam is my husband likes peach desserts. He doesn't know, but I have a peach pie in the freezer, and now he's going to have peach jam. And of course, you always have to please those people in your house. All right, our 1 minute's up. Woo! Guess I need another minute. Used to a gas stove. So I'm going to remove it. And I'm going to skim it for 5 minutes. Up to the bottom here. And stirring at this point helps to keep the fruit from separating. You want the fruit to be all through the jar. And you know, sometimes you'll pick up, and the strawberries might all be at the top, and the jello part is at the bottom. So this helps to keep the fruit from separating. We're almost there. And this is what I'm going to fill my jars with. I find it easiest. It's got a nice spout. And be sure when if you're watching this, check our Lombardy Fair book. There are many different kinds of jams that we have at fair time. We have strawberry jam, and I think we have some jellies, grape jelly and apple jelly and mint jelly are some of the categories in the fair book. And it's so good to see some of our young mums and young families beginning to enter into the fair. So we try to please them, even if it means taking the raisins out of the tarts. Almost there. And you can see how we're going to start skimming this. Hot stuff. And sometimes the foam will just go into the first jar, and then we pretty well have it gone.
Judy, do you ever use a teaspoon of butter?
Oh, I haven't, but I know it says that in the book, and that would help reduce the foam. So there's another tip. Yes, I did read that. And it goes in after the boiling or during?
During the boiling.
So it's all the way through. I think I can get a couple of jars done. And have my peaches now have been cooked, and I'm going to add my Surto. And of course, Surto is what thickens our jam. And as I said before, peaches are high in pectin. Some recipes may say to add more than 1 pouch, but I find 1 is sufficient with peaches. So I have it in. I'm going to continue to stir, and not too much foam. I added a teaspoon of butter, and that helps to keep the foam down, and therefore there's less loss. If you are making jam for an agricultural fair, which is going to be judged, you do not want any foam on the top of your jar. You'll lose marks. So I'm just going to stir it a bit more. And it's looking good. So anytime, I'll have to confess, I started this yesterday, and when I was cleaning up after, my bag of Surto hadn't gone in. So you never throw out a batch of jam. So I emptied each jar back in this morning, and I reheated it, boiled it, and I've had the Surto, and now I'm going to put it in the jars. So you learn things by mistakes, and even if it's cookies. I had a grandson make cookies the other day, and he put twice as much margarine in them as he was supposed to, but they ate them all. So hopefully this peach jam will be good. So I'm going to bottle it. It's ready. So I always use a measuring cup with a spout. It avoids any drips. And pour it in. It's a nice color. You leave about 1/4 inch at the top. You want to be careful because jam is very hot if it hits your hand. Now you can also, this is cooked peach jam, you can also do the freezer kind too. If you like it on ice cream, like some people in my house would love, you can do the freezer jam. It doesn't take quite as long. So, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have full 6 anyway. And 1 more. And I always use my spatula to end with to get every drop. You don't want to throw it out. Remember that amount of sugar that's in this. rest my measuring cup. And fill up. Perfect. And there's your peach jam. Now right there, it looks pretty good. The fruit and the gel. Here's one I brought. This one is last year's crop. So the color is still there. There's so much sugar in it, they won't spoil. So thank you for being part of the peach jam session. And good luck, and I hope you find another session of the Lombardy Fair. Thank you.